Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of Run to the Hills. Hi, Gary. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, Eddie?
Good. You've been running. How was the virtual marathon? Because that was I was thinking about you on Sunday as I did a paltry 90 minutes and it felt like a long way.
It was very good, actually. It was a really nice day on Sunday over here. I struggled. I had when you're not supposed to do two big workouts kind of back to back. Well, on Saturday was a big workout. I think it was a 16-mile, but with 7 mile at marathon pace and 2 mile at like threshold pace. So that was quite a tough run.
Yeah.
And then the marathon the day after was very slow and sociable, chatty trails, but I was tired.
Yeah, still time on your feet, isn't it?
Yeah, a long time. I think just over 4.5 hours. But we excelled ourselves with post-run nutrition.
Donuts.
No,
Greg's.
Oh, no.
KFC.
Sedgefield. We were in Sedgefield this weekend, so that's kind of middle class little small town, and it was
You allowed in that sort of place, Gary?
Oh yeah, I know people there. Connected. Strawberry tarts. What did we have? Oh my God, strawberry tarts and coffee.
And a pot of tea.
Americano. It was very good. What about you? I love your Strava pictures, all much more scenic than mine with all your white snow and stuff. It's brilliant.
I know they take some commitment because it's freezing. I have to see a really good view to take my stop, find my phone somewhere hidden, unzip, take the gloves off. So often, many times I can't say, I'm not taking, but if I go a bit later in the day when the sun is up, because often if I'm training before 9, it's at the moment it's like minus 14.
Oh,
so it's fine. It's actually fine because at the beginning of the winter that is really, really cold, but it's not that dry cold anymore. And as soon as the sun comes up, it goes up to like 10 degrees. It's incredible.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't take any photos yesterday. It was so beautiful yesterday, but I was told I wasn't allowed to prat around on my skis anymore for hours on end with my mates. I had to put my head down and get my heart rate up and start to do a little bit of work. I'd been spotted that I'd actually been like, shoo-bee-doo. So anyway, then I did this, then I did that. Oh, cup of tea, you know, how we all love to like socially run really. So I had 3 hours and I had to have my heart rate between 145 and 155. It's like a little bit out of breath for me, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But on skis, it's a bit like a bike heart rate. It sort of feels 10 beats higher than that.
Okay.
So I couldn't even lift my head up. I mean, I was going up and down these seats with all these tourists, and I'd get to the top. And especially once you go over 2,000 meters.
Oh, wow, yes.
I'd get to the top and I'd be like, breathing.
I've never been that kind of elevation and done exercise. You really feel it at the 2,000 meters.
I don't feel it now where I am. So I live at about 1,300. I don't feel it really now, unless when I'm running really fast on the treadmill, I can feel it. Yeah. That's like, it feels a bit faster than it is. But when the minute I go over 2,000 meters, I feel the heart rate jump, feel like about 5 beats just into that bit of,
wow, yeah.
So yesterday there were no photos because I literally didn't look up. I'd get to the top, I'd take my skins off, I turn it around, stuff a cheer charge, half a bar. And then the instructions were like, cruise the downhill, take it easy, recover. But it was really icy because I have to go early. So I was chattering down the hills. So I was trying to stick my teeth together with cheer charge bars to stop them chattering in my head. I was laughing to myself. Anyway, it was a really good workout. But I've got that fatigue today. I've just done a bike session. Yeah. And the first time in a long time, probably like you at the weekend, a sort of like hangover the next day when you've really worked quite hard and you feel a bit dehydrated and like you'd like a little nap.
After my 3 times 15 minutes, I needed a rest day. Thursday, I was supposed to do a workout, but I felt a bit poorly and I just wasn't recovered. So I thought, especially with the big weekend ahead, give myself a little break. 400s tonight.
You like to mix it up, don't you?
I think the plan I just follow a Garmin plan. I'm not coached or anything like that. And it's definitely looking at what's ahead. it seems to have gone more, say, speed orientated. So it's like the first chunk might have been some kind of speed endurance, and now it's kind of 400s and kilometers and stuff like that. So yeah, it definitely seems to change for the upcoming weeks. That's good. You know, you don't want to do 3 times 15 minutes every week. That would just
no. And I love doing dipping into. I think it's really important to work all your different gears. You know, especially as we get a bit older, work through, keep all those cogs in our. So if we're doing a race, we've got that little bit of speed. You know, it's still there. And I think especially as when you're older, you have to keep reminding your body that we're not. Which I think was what I was being told on my skis, that I was becoming very efficient at drinking tea and chatting for like 4 hours, and perhaps it was time to put a bit of work down.
Was it Sebco? He said, if all you do is slow runs, you'll get really good at running slow.
I am very good at it, but it's also what we really enjoy as well.
Yeah, that's the best bit, yeah. I loved Sunday. Ray and I went for a run for like 4.5 hours, chatting away. You know, it was fantastic.
Food for the soul, that. I'm a big believer that 80% of your running should be soul running and what you love doing, and then you just sprinkle in we all like the intervals once we get into them. It's just the thought. It's just the pressing the beep on the watch when you think, oh God, here we go.
Yeah, it's good with company though.
Right, this week I had a lovely chat with Mimi Anderson. If you don't know anything about Mimi Anderson, you just need to type her name into Google and there will be the most amazing list of results that you won't even believe. She runs distances that Gary and I cannot comprehend.
Oh my goodness, no way.
Not only does she run these extraordinary distances, but she is just the most humble and down to earth lady. I don't want to use the word normal, but she's just so normal and so endearing. And I am, everybody who's ever met Mimi, and if you ever meet Mimi, you will want to be her friend. She's the loveliest, kindest person, and she's just written a new book and all about her run across America. So we had a chat about that, but we also talked all about her journey into running and her writing the book and sort of the journey as well afterwards. I don't want to spoil it because you've got to read the
spoilers.
book.
I really enjoyed it. It was a good listen.
Here we are. Here's the interview with Mimi. What a treat.
I know. Isn't it fantastic having Zoom? I love it.
Do you talk to your family on Zoom a lot?
Yes, we did during the first lockdown. We did quite a lot, but I speak to my grandchildren who are probably similar-ish ages to your kids and things. God, that makes me feel old. I speak to them on FaceTime. Or if I ring Emma, Millie will pick up the phone. Hi, Dee Dee. Hi, I'm just going to get Mummy. And suddenly the phone just goes sort of, all over the place,
Mine sort of like swipe, you get the jammy fingers and then they drop it. And then then they're like, Mum, there was a message 2 days ago for you. It was on the phone. Oh, thank you. God. Are you missing your family terribly?
Yeah, because I speak to them every day, but yes, I think the grandchildren, I miss them, and I miss the fact that when it's a really nice sunny weekend, they're usually over here. We're drinking rosé or doing something or playing in the garden.
The grandchildren are drinking rosé. Your grandchildren have learned well from Granny there.
Yeah, no, they're not drinking. But I do. I mean, it was sunny the other day and I rang Emma and I went, you should be round. We should be having our first barbecue, Anyway,
it's not long now though, is it? When are you released?
Well, in theory, 29th of March. Okay. So I'm playing golf on that day. Very excited. I am. I booked it all in. My husband went, so what about me, Mimi? I went, you can organise your own game of golf. I've organised mine for 2 days.
Can you play with other people, or is it going to be like oh my God, the dream?
I know.
You're going to be a bit rusty. Are you going to have to lower your expectations of?
Oh no, they're already low. They are, in fact, I said to them, I'm going to have to practice in the garden. I have got balls and things, but every time I go out, my dog thinks, well, this is for me. And just chases them around. It's just so annoying. I have to lock her in the house.
Is your golf a bit like my skiing in that what is going on in my head isn't actually what happens? So I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I'm quite proficient. And then either my husband watching me goes, or it's just always a bit of a disappointment. I'm like, I know I can do better. But I think that's the set, like golf and skiing, like every time you do it, you're like, I could do better. It's almost addictive, isn't it? Because you're like, I know, especially as sporting people, we're like, we know we can do better. We know we can do
I know.
better.
I get very frustrated with myself. And the girls go, Mimi, actually, that you did quite well. I know, but you know, and they hit the ball and it just sort of goes further. I'm going, how do you do that?
Because it's technique as well. Whereas the sport we've been in is all about like the grit and the harder you try, the better it's going to be. And then anything that requires any technique, I'm like, technique or practice and patience.
No. That's why I'm not good at swimming. Swimming, it's all about technique, isn't it?
It's just...
Yeah. And they're going, do that. And then Mimi, and I'm thinking, I'm really stretching out in front and rotate. I'm doing really well on that. And this is Mimi, you need to rotate more. For God's sake, if I rotate, I'm going to turn over.
It's all too much. And what you think you're doing, I remember that when I did a lot of swimming, I'd be like, but I'm doing that. That's exactly what I'm doing. And then you get a video shot, you're like, oh.
No, I'm not doing that. I know. But are you back to running now you're doing a bit of running now?
Yes, well, I'm not doing, at the moment, I'm doing a lot of skiing because we have got so much snow here. And so this winter, I decided I wasn't going to run as much. And I was like, all the European athletes ski all winter and then they win all the mountain races. There's got to be a secret in this that I've always tried to run all winter. We've been here, this is our 6th winter. 5th. My husband's just gone 5. And I've always run and then ended up being injured or really tired because it's such hard work on the snow. It's ridiculous. So this winter I was like, right, I'm going to just ski. I'm going to forget about, and it's so hard because I'm addicted to running. And, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to really just ski and see what happens. And, it's been amazing. It's been really hard work because, it's a lot of hours compared to running. So you go out for an hour run, whereas a ski, it's like cycling. You need to cycle for 3 hours compared to, and it's like, does time. And then I'm like, oh my God, I go to the supermarket shop and the house and it's just such an investment of time and energy. But, I love it. I just love being outside. I'm not a good skier, but
that doesn't matter though.
The heart is there. I try, and I've definitely got better. And I feel like when I've gone back to running now, I'm like, it feels a bit alien, but I feel like fresh and strong. And I felt like, and you'll be able to relate to so much. I felt for the longevity of my sport, if I carried on just running, I was going to end in the next 10 years with a knee replacement my body just felt like after 3 kids, it was just not going to, I couldn't carry on. But I think where the Europeans are so much better at us, the mountain athletes, is that they mix the sports all the time. And so I re-found my love on my bike, which I haven't done for years, which I want to talk to you about, Swift, which again is another thing. It's just so addictive. I get on it for a recovery ride, do this, and then the Germans start chasing me around the volcano.
And then you've got to beat your time, and then you've got to overtake them, and then some guy overtakes you and you go, not a chance, sorry, not going to do that.
The kids come and stand behind me watching the screen and I'm like, it's a recovery ride, don't rile me up, kids. They're like, come on, he's going past you. Even on it's dangerous, isn't it? Even on a warm down, I'm like, Bob Irwin has passed you from America. And I'm like,
Well, you try racing.
No, do you know, I haven't done a race yet because...
And you should do. They're quite fun, actually, yeah. But you have to, the trick with racing, I mean, I'm knackered on it. So start with a short race. Robbie Britton does racing on his bike, but you have to start pedaling really fast 3 seconds before the race starts. Because, Zwift is about 3 seconds behind. So
it goes, because literally it's like, it's gone and they've gone.
Yeah, and they've gone like that, and then you're off. It's sort of, I love it. I mean, I'm not very good at it, but I do try, and then my legs just go, actually, Mimi, I'm really not enjoying this, and you have to keep the watts up,
Do you think start with a shorter race?
Yes, they do some quite good ones, actually, which are short, which are about 20K.
Okay. I
And that's quite
haven't
nice.
because my history of, I probably ended up snapping my quadricep or something, trying to push so hard. I'm so competitive, even in a world that's not real. Oh, it's
yeah, but it is real.
But it is.
People, no, but I know it's not real. But people are paid a fortune. You know, some of the top athletes who race on Zwift are paid a lot of money.
No way. I thought they just did it
like
because they like
real life.
doing it.
No, you've got proper teams there, and they can win money. I mean, I'm supposed to be entering this series. I'm not going to this time round actually, because I'm with the Welsh lot that I subdue, and it's the Welsh tri clubs against the Scottish tri clubs. But this time we have to pay 15 quid to enter. And actually, if it's nice and sunny outside, I'd rather be outside on a Saturday morning. So I'm not going to, and it's only 15 quid, I know, but I'm not going to commit to it. Whereas all the way through the winter, and last year it was all free.
Wow.
So there is money there.
There's money there. Yeah. Don't tell my husband that. He's going to be like, right, get in there, get on the Zwift. Let's see what you can do. But it's a bit, I have to be a bit careful because when I was a triathlete, my cycling was actually my strength. Okay. I was really, really strong. I could beat majority of the guys that I used to train with on the bike. I was like fourth in the age group bike in the world at the Ironman World Championships. I was really strong. So when I pedal on Zwift now, the watts and is not relate. I'm like, oh, that's sad. Yep. That's a sad. But I'm like, it's totally different. You're doing this for a different reason. And you probably find the same thing is like, actually it's for cross training is for my head, for still being fit, for getting that hit of endorphins. Actually, what I do on it doesn't really matter. I just want to get sweaty and chase the Germans. Really. Yeah,
no, exactly. Exactly. Or Australians.
It's probably the time of day.
It's the time of day. Yeah, I have a lot of Australians and a few, a lot of Australians.
Because I'm always in the evening. I'm either at lunchtime or in the evening. So it's either the French are all on their lunch break when I am. Yeah. And I don't mind. I don't mind them. They're okay. And then in the evening, there's got often a lot of Americans, sort of 7, 8 o'clock. So it must be that they're just waking up and going on. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Gary's going to kill us because he's always like, don't talk about cycling too much, Eddie. Right, let's start with a proper introduction, Mimi. We've had a preamble. Catch up. Lots of people listen to our podcast who are runners but are perhaps new to ultra running, new to the running world, and they often say to me, we love it, Eddie, because often with podcasts when really well-known people like you come on, people just assume that we know who you are. So I'm going to give you a little introduction, and then perhaps we could go back a little bit before we talk about the book, which by the way, oh Mimi, I loved it.
Was it all right?
Was it all right?
No, but I do worry because, you write something and you just think people are going to be, you wait for the criticisms.
Oh, no, stop it. Well, you see, this is something else I want to talk to you about. But I like the fact that the end is at the start. You know where you're going. And I sort of read all the chapters on your journey through America. Or I was like, I knew where it was going, but I was still hoping that it wasn't going to end. How it ended, I was still like, oh, it's so hard. But you talk about it. Let's go back. Let's introduce Mimi. Mimi is a multiple Guinness World Record holder. She has done too many ultra races to list. And I feel that people could look her up and you can find out all about the races she's done. But for an example of Mimi's amazingness, she does one race, an ultra race, and then once she's done it once, she's like, it's a little bit too easy for me. I'm going to turn around and run it again. Sometimes she does that, or sometimes she runs to the start line to double the distance. So for any of you out there who are amazed at when people run a marathon or a 50-mile, Mimi's often just warming up after about 200 miles. Her endurance CV is incredible. Not only is it incredible with what she's achieved, but she won't mind me saying this, she's from very humble roots. She's not an Olympic athlete. She didn't go to school and win all these sporting titles. She was a mum of 3, hence why our love of each other started with many children. She's now a granny. How many grandchildren do you have, Mimi?
I've got 3.
I've got 3 grandchildren as well.
3,
and did you do your first ultra when you were 36? Am I right in that?
Yes, yeah, 36, yeah.
So I find that like so inspiring, even all the amazing things you've done, but I just find it so inspiring that later on in your life, you'd had the kids. They weren't very old when you did your first ultra, but then you went on to achieve these amazing things. And I work with Sophie Power. I don't know if you've seen, she released a film last week.
Absolutely fantastic, yeah.
And I think the message she's always trying to get across is that, like, when we have kids, that's not the end. That should be, you should be able to carry on with your own dreams as being a mother and something. But yet you hadn't even started on your journey when you had the 3 kids, and then you went on this incredible journey. So can you sort of, how did that come about? You've got the 3 kids, you're not really got running in your life, and then you decided, I know I've read it heaps of times as well, you decided you wanted to have slimmer legs, so you took up running. I love that. And then the Marathon des Sables.
Yeah, well, that was my first, because, you know, so going back to the good old days, it's just actually, you didn't have Google, and you know, you didn't really know a lot about all these races. In fact, in the UK, there were very few races around, and so I discovered the Marathon des Sables when a friend of mine just literally came into the gym and handed me, I think it was the Time supplement about the MDS, and I just saw all these pictures of people walking across deserts and gaiters on and blisters, and I just thought, oh God, you know, that looks just so fantastic. It just looked like an adventure. You know, I think my youngest was about 6 or 7 at the time, and so for me, that I didn't think about the distance actually.
No. Did you feel you were just hankering for an adventure, just to be like, I want to be Mimi, I don't want to be a mum for a few weeks, I want to focus on something different?
At the time, no. I mean, that was the interesting thing. No, when I started running, I sort of didn't. No, that never occurred to me. Never occurred to me at all.
You're a much better mum than I am, because I'm like, I'm getting out of here.
No, I would go and escape, so don't worry about that. So I did, but it never occurred to me to go and have an adventure, or I mean, and again, in those days, it was sort of.
It was so unusual, I think, though, as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I did get a little bit of criticism from men and women, actually, for leaving my children. That didn't worry me, because I knew that they were quite safe. My mum was looking after them or whatever.
And they have their dad, who, you know, he's not just the
exactly. Although, can I just say, he went fishing when I went and did the Marathon des Sables. So, you know, and I'm thinking, that was good. He said, well, it's all right, because he said, your mum's coming down. So that was sort of what our life is like. But I think with the running, what I discovered was actually how wonderful and important it was for me to have my time, and I really enjoyed and relished those sort of hours, or, you know, half an hour, whatever it might be, with no children and no husband and nothing other than me, and just that was nice. Yeah.
So you did the Marathon des Sables with your mates.
With my mates, yeah.
Oh, I love that. And then after that, were you like, I need more. I'm hungry for more blisters and pain.
I know. I came home, and I mean, if you'd seen my feet, I mean, you know, it's like after you've done a race, my feet were swollen. I had blisters. I mean, I had toenails were falling off. There wasn't a pedicure. It saved him a fortune. And but I think everybody thought that I'd be put off by that, because I wasn't very well during the race. But when I came back, I just thought, you know, that was, yes, it was hard, but I finished it. I finished, you know, a race that was billed as the toughest foot race in the world, and I felt really, really ill, but I'd finished it. So I thought, okay, what can I do if I'm feeling 100%? And I think for me, it just sparked something inside me that I just thought, right, what else am I going to do now?
Where do you think that grit and determination comes from? Because often when I start with new coaching clients, my first question is like, what did you do when you were a child? What did you do when you were at school? Not just sport-wise, but what was your life like? Because often that then relates into your adult life. Where do you think this like grit, this determination, this incredible ability to push yourself to breaking, and not only that, but to love it as well, because you've got to love it, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. You do have to love it. Yeah, you do. I think a little bit of it actually comes from my father. because he used to do quite a lot, a lot of sport with the army, and he did a lot of cycling. So I think a lot of the sporting side of it, funnily enough, comes from my father. I think the grit and determination, I don't know. I mean, when I started it, I think really ultimately that comes from having had an eating disorder.
I wondered
and I think, and I think, I was really lucky and I managed to get through it and recover. A little bit of it always stays there, but I mean, I don't have an eating disorder anymore, so I'm fine. And I think the other bit was I had a nanny that wasn't terribly nice to me. So as a child, I was only 6, 7 at the time. And so as a child, I think you hide it all away, you put it to the back of your brain. And I completely forgot about it. And it re-emerged again, all those emotions and things when I started recovering from my eating disorder. And so I think that, two not very nice things that happened to me, but actually they've sort of molded me into the person that I am, because actually if you can survive that and come out of that quite a strong personality, which I think you sort of have to be in a way, then I think, you can do anything really, can't you? So I think that was sort of what molded me, although I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we never do we, on our journey? No. We never realize all these things that happen is leading us somewhere and making us stronger, better, even if it involves breaking us down and then building us back up again. Do you think your journey was always leading to this? Because sort of at the beginning of your book, you talk about like you wanted to run across America almost right from the beginning of your. Do you think all those sort of races, all those doubles, you were slowly leading towards this sort of this running across America being your sort of ultimate?
I think, but again, without realizing it, it wasn't until I watched James Adams when he ran across, he ran across America. I was following his story and I just thought, that's fab. But absolutely, because, to do any long distance stuff, you've got to put the work in, haven't you? You can't just go out and go, well, I'm going to go and run across America, or I'm going to run across, Ireland or whatever it might be. You've got to put the work in. So for me, I think, all my doubles, all the long races that I did was all part of my training and my build up to America. So when I then decided that that's what I was going to do, it just seemed a natural progression, because I sort of felt that my body was ready for it.
Did you feel right from the beginning that it was probably going to be your last really big run, or did you think there would be more sort of in the future?
No, it was going to be my swan song. I was quite excited, actually. I thought, right, if I can, that is just so exciting. What I wanted to do was to go and run across America and finish, get the record, or even not get the record, but finish.
Yeah.
And then I was going to come home and go and have adventures. Actually, that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't particularly interested in racing. I've done that for 20 years. And it's very difficult competing against somebody who's 25
Come them with their fresh hamstrings, loose knees,
and there's some geriatric on the start line, but people have expectations, and
of course,
don't mean to be rude, very nearly 60 now, so actually my expectations are going to really be rock bottom. It's a fact of life, isn't it? I know we get better as
your
we get
expectations
older.
of your performance are still very high. You still expect great things out of you, even in Swift races, but the tally of the actual time, or however we're going to measure the performance, it's how you measure your performance, isn't it? And I'm learning this as I'm going into my 40s, is the actual measure of the performance. You just have to measure it in a different way, whatever, and I can change that however I measure my success on a day. If I'm like, I'm just going to hang this washing out and that's the day's goal achieved. Well done, Eddie.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to America. Your plan was to do it, let me get the days right, 57 days?
53 days.
53 days. I wrote it down. The record was 57 days. Is that right?
No, the record at the time was, the record was 69 days. And no, so I wanted to, I was trying to average. So I set out to do 53 days, but actually in my head, I was doing 50.
That was it.
Because I thought if I say 53, and that gives me 3 days to play with, and it takes the pressure off me from the world, you know, because I hated that everybody was watching. I really didn't like that.
Did you? Yeah.
I had to put everything on Strava, and I use it for cycling because I don't understand my cycling at all. I just don't understand what it all means. So it can go on Strava as far as I'm concerned because it doesn't matter. But the running, I just felt it never went on there until I obviously did my world record, and I just for the first week actually was very conscious that people were going to be watching it going, oh my God, she's going so slowly, and would be sort of, I just felt would be really critical.
I get this feeling in your book, and having spoken to you, I'm always like, who are these people? Because anybody who I know, Mimi, and will just look at you with such love because you're crazy and you're Mimi, but we're also with such admiration and incredulity at what you achieve, that and then you go and it breaks my heart a little bit. And then you go and say, oh, I feel a bit, you know, I'm always worried about what people are thinking when I'm doing that. And I'm like, you're running across America. Most people can't run for the bus, for goodness sake.
Oh, I know.
Give you a little check, and I bet your husband and your crew were a little bit like. But that's what makes you, isn't it? I mean, that's what makes you, and that's how it makes you a great champion.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I did find that bit quite difficult, and I did. I mean, you know, I got some lovely. I mean, I never had my phone with me, but I had some really lovely messages and things. But yes, I was always very aware that I was being watched, and I mean, I got used to it. After a week, it was all right. I thought, actually, do you know something? It doesn't matter. I can only. This is not. You know, it's not like a marathon. It's not like a half marathon. I have to run at a pace that I can just, you know, or walk or whatever it might be. So I was fine after a while. I got the hang of it.
You actually drove the route, didn't you, before you ran it? Was it a couple of years or a year before to plan the route, which must have been an epic. Because I remember I used to drive the Ironman bike course before I rode it and be like, oh my God, it's taken us like 2.5 hours to drive this. And it's the same in an ultra, isn't it? When you're driving along the marathon, and you see, if you're doing a big drive, especially with the kids in the back, and it's like 83 miles to Perth, and you're like, oh my God, I run this. And then you get, you know, embroiled and stuff. And then it's like 40 miles. Like, how did you feel when you were driving it?
It was just
did you
fantastic.
have to separate it? Like, I'm not going to imagine myself running this. It's going to be almost just an adventure in itself.
Yes, I mean, there was sort of two things. So we knew that the first bit, because it was checking the route, to be able to check the route. And in fact, not a lot of it, but some of the route was changed on the West Coast, a fair amount, not so much on the in the Midlands at the other end, but on the West Coast it was changed quite a lot because we were taking up mountains, and we had to get permission to go through a sort of an Indian reservation, which actually we finally got permission, and they gave us a police escort. It was fab. But that was only on day 2, and I knew that this is the first time I'd been to LA, and so I knew that we had to do 61 miles the first day because we had to get out of LA.
Okay.
You know, because it's a massive, great big city. So
we can't really imagine it, can we, being from England, the size and the magnitude. I mean, be halfway up England.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is absolutely, and the country, I mean, just, you know, you can spend, I think it was in Kansas, I spent three days or something, I can't remember now, running on the same road.
Oh yes, that does seem a bit endless, that bit. When you just like, there's not a great deal to look at. We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. It's just...
I did want my I wanted my red slippers at that stage, and I did want to click my heels going, take me home.
Can we talk a little bit about your crew? Because I think as well, the crew you've learned and you've honed, and you've got such a fabulous crew from all your races that then you were able to sort of bring together for your America crossing, but also they'd learned so much, and you'd learned so much about what you wanted out of a crew. Because I ran with Dan for a day on his Le Jog record in the summer, and gosh, I mean, Dan would say this too. He just had to follow that white line up England, and all he did, if we ran on the white line in front of him, he would be like, I just need to stay on the white line, just don't come anywhere near me on this white line. And that's all he had to do. And then he'd get to the van and his wife would hand him the plate of whatever he was eating. I mean, and it was, and someone had changed his pants and did terrible things.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, absolutely.
you just have to hand yourself over. So can you tell us a little bit about your crew, their roles, and what they did for you? Because that's sort of mind-blowing to a lot of people, and they gave up all that time as well.
I mean, there was Jenny and
is Jenny the police officer?
No, Jan's the police officer.
Jan's
Jenny,
the police officer.
Jenny was my sort of head crew. So I'd met her in the ice ultra in Sweden, and she really kindly said that she said, "Well, I'd love to come and support you." And actually, she was brilliant. And so she was the one that actually she put these sort of packages together for the crew beforehand, so everybody knew what they were sort of doing. And she would sort them out on a sort of daily basis. So, making sure they had enough sleep, who was driving, who was doing what. So she did a fantastic job. And if anything went wrong with me, i.e. if I need to go to the hospital or I needed different trainers or whatever, she would sort all that out. So she was absolutely brilliant. And then Becky and Paul, who have crewed for me for years and years and years, they had postponed their honeymoon from the year before. And so this was their running moon. So they were actually on honeymoon.
You give people the best time, Mimi.
I do. They did actually have a bed together. So that was all right.
It's a very small motorhome. So just, keep your jammies on.
Yeah, strict instructions.
Strict PG in the motorhome, please.
And so they were with me for 3 weeks, and then Jan, who's the policewoman, she was just fantastic as well, and her cooking, it was just, I just used to look forward to every evening, and during the day. So she would actually work out how many calories I had to have on a daily basis, depending on the altitude or whatever it might be. And so she was brilliant, because I'm not the easiest person to feed in the world. So they were really good at changing things around and, giving me an option of things to eat, because sometimes I just go, I don't want to eat that.
And that's and that's amazing, because I know when my husband's crewed for me for long distance stuff, he gets really angry with me because we lose the bit. I'm like, I don't want to, no, I'm fine. I'll have that small cube of something, and that'll be fine for the next 20 miles. And he's like, and I've done the same when I've been crewing for Debs or something, a 24 hour, and I'm like, you've got to just drink it. And I'm like, no, you lose the ability to know that you need these calories, and you need to keep fueling yourself. And so to have somebody, and also to have somebody giving you something that actually tastes nice.
Yes. And I mean, and they were really really good with that. And I know that the first couple of days, I think, everybody was getting into a routine. So the first couple of days, every time I came up to my vehicle to where they would sort of have this box of, food, right, you've got to take 3 items and then off you can go, Mimi. And they give me, just swap my water over at the same time. And I would moan. And so I had to have a serious talk with myself and just go, Mimi, they're out here to support you. Imagine how negative they're going to feel when they're seing their runner coming up
as you run away. They're like, she,
I know,
we're not
she's
going.
A real pain. I know. So I pulled myself together and I thought, right, that's it. No more moaning about the food, and you just eat it. And I did throw some food away a couple of times, which I got really ticked off for, understandably.
I've done it. I've seen it. I'm sure any ultra runners listening. I just can't. Or it's been in your mouth for so long. You're like, that's too dry. Other stuff.
Well, the first couple of days, actually, I did a lot of gagging. Actually, I don't know what was wrong with my stomach or something. I mean, I don't get sick, but if I ate anything, I'd automatically get this gag reflex. Everything would just come up again. So I just went, I'm not going to eat. And my weight, it always drops when I start running. Always has done. That's just, I think, because I just, it just utilizes the fat that I have, and I don't have very much of that. And so, and then I tend to stay thin. But, my body weight goes down quite quickly, and then it sort of levels itself out. So, but I was weighed every day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And they were very good. They put a sticky thing over the numbers, because I didn't want to see the numbers. I didn't want to know if I put on or lost weight. Wasn't interested.
No, bigger things to focus on. And you had a physio, because I know Becca. I've done a couple of races with her physios.
Yes. Oh, they were fab. I mean, they were absolutely brilliant, and all three of them were very different. So they all came out at different times, and they were just absolutely amazing. They would always be in the car. So if I needed to have a treatment, then
were they like, we're not here for manicures, Minnie. It is just for your legs and your body. Like,
I did get my feet massaged. Oh no, they were very good at that. No, they were very good at that too. Yeah, oh no, my feet. No, treat. Once I had everything, well, I very rarely got my top bit massaged actually, because I just didn't need it quite so much. So I got my legs done, but at the end, just as I was then, finishing off, I would turn back over and I'd had my feet done. Oh,
dream.
I mean, that was lovely. Yes,
you must have looked forward to that. So can you tell me, I'm trying to talk about the book, but without giving too much, because I want people to read it. So I don't want to talk too much, rather other people go, well, I've heard Mimi and Eddie talk all about it. So, but can you tell us maybe like a couple of highlights of the journey that you remember very fondly?
Well, I think one of the things I always remember are the sunrises. Because, of course, I started running at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you started super early, didn't you?
Yeah. And so every morning I had the most spectacular sunrise. It was just beautiful. And there's something really special about seeing the beginning of a new day. So for me, and my next day, as it were, didn't start until 6 o'clock in the morning, which is when I had started my in LA. So so that was very special. And there was another occasion, I mean, gosh, I had so many. Another occasion where I had my lovely cowboys in Missouri. Oh my goodness. I was running along this road, minding my own business. This is after lunch. I was having, I was in a really good spirit.
You were zen, yeah.
Yeah, and this really noisy car, no cars on the road, really noisy car comes coming towards me and goes really fast behind me, you see. And I'm thinking, sheesh, that was a little bit.
Oh, down there, pal.
It had one of those zooped up, engines and I mean, everything. Anyway, then I heard the car turn around and come back towards me again. I'm thinking, oh, really? More noise? Anyway, bless them. They stopped, and they were two young guys, my cowboys. And
my cowboys, I love it.
And I can't do an American accent, so I'm not even going to begin to try. No, can't. I've tried to turn into an Indian accent or a Japanese.
Oh, mine does too. The international accent.
But they were really good because they had spotted my crew and had actually helped my crew find somewhere to put the RV for the night and things, so it was safe. And they were so enamoured that this mad woman was running across America. They came back to chat to me, and when I then got to my crew for it was a checkpoint at that stage, just meeting up, they were there. And then the next morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, now bear in mind we didn't wake up till 4:30, but they were there. They'd woken up the coffee shop in Archie, and they had got everybody fresh coffee and these great big cinnamon buns. I know, I didn't have one.
Bet your crew were like, let's take these cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. But they were great, and they'd organised for, Archie was out in force when we ran through in the early hours of the morning.
And you found that quite emotional, didn't you? Because I think as well, when you're in the depths of such a big endurance challenge, your emotions are obviously teetering on the edge of, but when people did come out to cheer or did special things like that, you not only were you really touched, but you found it like really, maybe it brought home to you what you were actually achieving at the time as well.
Yes, I was always surprised if, I had a lady who held up a sign, she'd followed my tracker, and she'd came out, and I could see my crew, And there was this woman standing there with a sign. I think her number plate was Yoda or something, which always made us laugh. But she'd come out and to support me. And and that was it. I burst into tears when I saw her. I gave her a hug, and when you could hug in those days.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it was funny when I read that bit of the book. I did think first thing you do is you hug that lady. I'm like, oh, Mimi.
No, that's naughty.
Don't be doing that again soon.
So it's things like that. And, I had a few kids that I ran with or came out with me. There were just so many, everybody was nice. The police or the sheriffs, whatever you like to call them, were fab. I mean, they would drive back down the road. And I remember thinking the first time this happened, I thought, oh my God, they're going to stop me, or what have my crew done? And they drive down the road. So they'd said they'd seen me, and then drive back to my crew so they could fill out the witness form.
Did you find that a different relationship from when you did your Le Jog record with the police and with people? Was there a different vibe from America to England, or just different?
It was just different. I think, when we did the jog, we didn't, when we stopped, we would just find a lay-by or somewhere, because I think, they don't seem to have lay-bys so much in America, funnily enough.
Oh, okay.
And when I did, and again, in the UK, people were fantastic, and they would come out and run with me. But in America, it was just people would bend over backwards to help us find somewhere safely because the RV was a 31-foot RV.
Yes, enormous. I couldn't get my head around that. I mean, did it have a cinema room, a swimming pool?
Virtually. I know it did. And sides that came out. I mean, it was full on fantastic.
I mean, that's one of my dreams, is to have one of those on the drive. I mean, my husband's like, you get a tent if you're lucky, but the Americans love that, the trailer dream, don't they?
Yeah, but their roads are big enough.
Yes, of course.
Their roads are big enough, so they could do. But we had, that massive, great big RV called Monty, and then of course we had 2 cars. So and we had the film crew who were completely separate. But they had a smaller RV. So there were 4 very large.
This is quite a carnival of Mimi's Carnival.
No. Well, the camera crew were quite good because they would go off and do their own thing.
It sounded like they sort of dipped in and out, and then but also they drum up support on the way and find all. Yes. I'm sure they found all sorts of random people.
No, they did. They were just. Carol was just so funny, and I think a lot of the Americans didn't understand her because she has got this fantastic Glaswegian accent, and she talks really, really, really fast, so you can't understand her. But I love them dearly. They were great.
And so after 40 days, you covered 40 days, 3/4 of the distance across America, didn't you? And I don't want to say, I'm sure people know the story and, know what happened. But after 3/4 of the way across America, you were forced to stop the journey, and it broke you, didn't it?
Totally.
I remember listening to your interview on Marathon Talk, and probably now you look back and go, that was a bit too soon to talk about it, because you were so raw, and I just cried listening to you.
Well, I think it was interesting actually, because I didn't want to do that interview, and I did say to them, I don't want to do that interview, and they actually said, now is the time, quite rightly actually, to do an interview like this, because then all the emotions will still come out. And my husband, Tim, who was obviously with me at the time, and Sophie, I never mentioned Sophie, who was also another member of my crew, who was fab as well. Everybody was fab. They were all really good. But I think for me, and I can still picture when I did the interview, I was sitting on the bed in my hotel room it wasn't a particularly nice hotel, but sitting in New York, and I had to do that, and you can't be anything other than truthful about how you feel.
Well, you never are, Mimi. You never are. You wear your heart on your sleeve all the time anyway, but that was even more.
And that was hard.
I can imagine that was really hard. But what I love about the book is that you talk all about, the decision to stop, and then the come down. And for any of us who've done races that haven't gone well, or anything in life where you've put so much effort, and we often think in life, don't we, that if you put a lot of effort into something and and it's your dream, that you should achieve it. And in the not achieving it, it's such a hard. I'm learning this with 3 very sporty kids. The what you put into it isn't always then received in what the outcome, but it's the process of going through your journey towards it, what you've learned. And then what I love about the book is that it doesn't finish there. You don't, that didn't happen, and this is what happened. You then, the person that you've become now, what you've then gone on to do, I think is almost more inspirational than your previous incredible endurance feats, because you've worked with what you can do. You've had to probably swallow a bit of humble pie and your ego a bit and gone, I'm going to have to go and learn a new sport. What I'm going to do for running is going to be so minimal of what it was, but I'm going to almost start a whole new chapter in my life. And you've done it with such amazing spirit and attack, and you haven't lost any of that, though I'm sure when you checked into that hotel in America, you were like, this, it's over. Probably a bit like me, as like when things don't go to plan, it's over.
I know. Well, you
lose your identity a bit, don't you?
Which is, you then, once you're sort of
exactly, and then you look back on it, and your husband goes, honestly, those 2 months, what?
I know, I was awful. I mean, absolutely awful, actually. But I didn't know what to do.
No, of course not.
I just didn't know what to do with myself, because I suddenly thought, I'm not part of the running community anymore. I felt a bit of a fraud because I can't run. Because at that stage I didn't know whether I could run or not. And I didn't feel, I'd always been part of the running community. So suddenly to not be part of the running community, which is stupid because I, still am.
No.
But, you're watching everybody else running and racing. And so I did have to sort of stop watching for a little bit.
Yeah,
actually.
I'm sure everybody relates to that who's ever had an injury
But I think for me, I did let myself grieve. I remember watching, what's he called? Andy Murray's documentary.
Oh, yes. I haven't watched that, but I saw you mention that and I thought, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's absolutely brilliant. I have to say, absolutely brilliant. Now, I'm not comparing myself to Andy Murray in any way, but when he said it was like a grieving process, I thought that's exactly what it is. It is absolutely like a grieving process. So once I came out of that, I had a good old chat to Mark Cobain, actually. Love Mark Cobain because, spade to spade, no fluffy white towels or anything like that, or clouds or anything. I knew that he would, because he's been through something similar, he would tell me what I did really need to hear. And he then suggested that I went and cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats with Ride Across Britain. Which I thought he was absolutely mad. Terrified me because I didn't have a bike, but I just thought, okay.
Love it.
I signed up. And I think with anything in life, isn't it? I didn't know whether I could do it, but I thought, well, I didn't know whether I could run when I started running. So I must be able to ride a bike. I mean, I know how to ride a bike. But it was the swimming bit that I shared my journey, and my daughter actually, so on Instagram, I shared my story.
I know this story.
And my daughter said to me, Mum, can you just stop doing that? And I said, well, why? She said, have you looked at yourself on Instagram? She said, because you come out, you've got a hat on, you've got your goggle eyes. And she said, quite frankly, Mum, it's not a good look. And I went, it's reality. And then I saw myself and I thought, no, Mimi, that is so not
don't. It's just she might be grown up, but it's such your child comment, isn't it? Like, you're like, drag yourself in, you've done this amazing thing. Like, Mum, you've got a bit, can you just brush your, you're looking, Mum, Mum, you look a bit windswept. What have you done with your hair? Or just wait outside. Or if it's French, just don't speak any French to the teachers, all right? Just don't. But your swimming journey, I think almost more than your cycling journey has been, you've had to really challenge some demons to just get your face in the water.
I know. And I don't understand how anybody can just, I had a message today from a friend of mine who was looking for a bit of a challenge. So she sent me this message, and her natural sport is swimming.
Okay.
So she sent me this message saying, Mimi, now I want to do the Dart 10K. It's a swim, 10K swim. But it's booked up this year. How do you fancy it next year? I went, no.
Not even a thought, not even a pause.
I did say to her, I'd have to think about it. So, I haven't, but I looked at her, 10K swimming. But but again, the reason I wanted to, I suppose, document it when I did my Instagram and stuff like that is because there must be other people like me who frightened of the water or can't swim and can't do that. And actually it was great. I got so many lovely comments from people going, oh, it's so nice to know, Mimi, I'm not the only one out there that can't do this. You know, I mean, I would go swimming to drown rather than go swimming to swim. You know, it took me a long time. So.
But I think it's so hard when you're an adult as well to challenge those fears, because they become real ingrained fears that you don't have. I've seen it in the skiing when we moved here, and I'd never skied before. And I had to teach myself as an adult to learn to ski, and it was terrifying. So, I mean, so much. We walk around ski down bits where my husband goes, that's where you cried again. That's where you said you were going to divorce me. That's where, and challenging those fears as an adult is a whole other ball game to when you're a child. And I just think you're incredible that you get in and you challenge and you challenge and you challenge. So it was
very frustrating though.
And it's so frustrating because we're like, why can't we do this? Why aren't we?
Yeah. And the lifeguards would, you know, so I would
they be going,
do a length. I know, exactly. I'd do a length and I'd get to the end and I'd pull my goggles up and and they could see it and they'd come up to me, Mimi, you don't need to be too hard on yourself. I'm not. Why can't I do it? You know, and then when I finally managed to do 100 meters without stopping, I mean, I have to say it wasn't the prettiest 100 meters. Again, it was there on Instagram story. I was so proud of myself. When I got home, my husband had printed out a certificate saying that I'd done 100 meters. Yes.
You sewed your badge on your towel and on your swimming costume.
So pretty. So I've got all the gear now. I've got the wetsuit.
You're all ready.
The gear.
Is there more triathlon in your life when we go back to racing, when we're allowed to share saliva and sweat once more?
I've signed up for one in July and because it's a fairly local one. It's open water because I've done a pool-based one. Mm-hmm. And I feel I've got to do one open water. And then I might just, I keep the swimming up, but I might just concentrate on that. And perhaps do it, as a friend today suggested, do it in relays, Mimi. Yeah. You know, so do the biking section or the run section or whatever. But I think, I've got to do an open water one. I might really enjoy it. But my fear still, I can swim. I still don't particularly enjoy the swimming bit, but I will keep it up because I do open water swimming with the girls in the summer. I did 2 miles last year. Which it is stop-start, so don't be impressed that it was all in one go.
Anything you do, Mimi, impresses me. You're an inspiration. You're an inspiration. We're going to definitely see a 10K swim. I can just see it now. You going, I'm not doing 10K. Well, actually, I'm swimming there and back now. I'm actually doing a 40K. I'm crossing the channel before you know it.
But do you know what I've really enjoyed? I've really, really enjoyed about this open water swimming. There was, in the summer, there was myself and my friend Liz, and we were in the river. Beautiful, beautiful day. There was nobody else around. And the flowers are out on the side of the banks and everything. And, you know, these swans just flew over us. And you just think, actually, do you know, if I hadn't have stopped running, I would never have seen or experienced anything like this. You know, you're just floating around in the river. So, you know, positive.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure there are still you that little bit of grief. And as my mum always says, the little scar on your heart will always be there from the America crossing. But I'm sure you have those moments of sadness as well, that your running journey has just changed now. Yeah. But as well, I'm sure you also have those amazing moments that I never would have been experienced this if I hadn't. And I think that's what I try and get across on the podcast a lot, that if you dip your head out from the running tunnel, there are lots of other things that you can do if you're injured or, you know, you're busy or you just... And they all complement running. It doesn't always have to be running, but sometimes it takes us many years, many injuries to realize.
I know. And, you know, the nice thing is that I can still, I mean, you know, this took quite a few months, but I can still run. I can't run a lot, so I do anything from a 5 to a 10K. So it's usually around, you know, 8K, once or twice a week. And, do you know, I'm happy with that. Even if I can only run 3 kilometers, it doesn't matter because it's just running out and just having that bit of time. So I can
Nothing beats it. As much as we can say, you know, the biking and the swimming, there is something about the movement of the body that sort of natural, going back to our cave woman, probably.
It just gives you time. You don't have to concentrate on anything, do you?
No.
It's one foot in front of the other, and then and your mind just wanders off into this lovely.
I dread to think where your mind goes.
I love it. I love it.
I can imagine sort of pink, swirling, like 1960s.
Yeah,
sort of.
I'm there.
Okay. So, well, people want, you've written 2 books now. People want to find your books, buy them, read them. Where can they purchase?
At the moment on Amazon, they can. I haven't actually got copies of Limitless. Well, I've got a few, but I'm waiting for an order to arrive. So at some stage, people can buy those off me as well. I've got Beyond Impossible here, but yeah, so Amazon, and I think Waterstones as well.
Would you contemplate doing an audiobook, Mimi?
They're both Limitless is in the process of being made into an audiobook, and Beyond Impossible is an audiobook.
Do you read it?
No, it's like interviews or anything. I can't listen to myself afterwards.
No, I know.
Never have done.
I don't often listen back to the podcast. I just can't bear it. But sometimes if I'm unsure about what I've talked about, so I'm just going to check I don't sound like a total spanner. And I listen to my voice and I'm like, how do people live with me? Honestly, that voice.
No, you see, your voice is fine. It's just, I just think, I would have said something stupid, or, I think my dread, funnily enough, is always when, somebody asks you a question, you think, didn't understand that, actually. They were using long words. And that's a real fear of mine. If people are going to use words that I don't understand, then I'm going to have to say, I'm really sorry, but could you say that in English?
That's like my life out here in France, maybe, when people ask me questions, I'm like, oh, now I'm going to answer this. And by your facial expression, I'll know if I understood it right. And I'm always, if I go to somewhere new, like a doctor, dentist, I'm like, don't ask me complicated. Let's just keep this super simple. If I'm in the conversation, it's when they ask a new question, I'm like, oh God, I have no.
And you have to think about it.
I just have to go, oui, bien sûr. Oh, Mimi, thank you so much for giving us your time on the podcast. I know there's going to be so many people that perhaps have not been introduced to you before that are now going to discover the wonderful world of Marvelous Mimi and enjoy your books. I know I was so excited when I saw you had a new book out, because I loved your first book so much. And the second book didn't disappoint. And I think the biggest thing that came out of it for me, both as an athlete myself, but also as a mum bringing up the kids as well, is that what we learn from sport is not just always about the success story. It's about the resilience and the grit and the determination, and that the path that you go on isn't always where you think it goes, and just following the journey is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing it with us, and let us know if you read the book. Let's give us a comment on Facebook or shout out. Mimi, we'll put your social media things on the show notes so people can follow you, and they can see the Instagram stories of the swimming goggles.
Oh yes, and welcome to my utility room. Yes, absolutely. So but no, Eddie, thank you so much for having me. It's been really lovely. It really has, as always, chatting to you.
Right, so we'll talk about last week, or the last fortnight's competition. We had to make a short video that we could share on YouTube or on our Facebook or Instagram stories, and we had a few entries, and we thought Mike Raffens was the best. He had some kind of log workout, Eddie, which was quite funny. It made me laugh when I saw it on YouTube, not on YouTube, sorry, on the Facebook group. So Mike Raffen will get in touch with you, and a box of Cheer Charge goodies will be on their way to you. Thanks for entering, everybody.
I like the idea of the log workout, because we have a wood fire here. We don't have much heating, and so we have to light the fire about 3 or 4 to warm up the house.
Yeah,
that is a serious business. Bringing the logs in, and according to your age, is how many logs you have to bring in.
Oh, interesting.
So the littlest one only has to bring a few in, and as you get older, like that's how many, and they go in and out, and they try and carry as many as they can, because it's normally just before cartoon hour, so they're having a massive swap.
I like the old school exercises.
Did you see? You haven't mentioned. Did you see? I made a TikTok video with my eldest son.
I did. Yeah, I did see that.
Were you impressed with that? Oh my god,
was very good.
it took us like all afternoon. And then the worst bit, because I don't let him look on any. He doesn't have any social media or any phone or anything yet. He's too little. But then he spent the whole time going, "How many views? How many likes?
I know.
How many views?"
Oh.
Well, I was like, we have nobody. You know, there's 2 people. You know, it's not going to go viral. I think he was thinking.
It's harsh. My goodness me, it's harsh. YouTube and TikTok. I'm not too sure what it is, but sometimes
I think we'll remove it now. He's forgotten about it now, but I was like, this is why I don't do stuff like this.
Well, on reflection, the competition was maybe a little bit too hard.
We're going to make it easy this week.
Yes.
We've made it. We're going to make it super. But first of all, before we get to that, we're going to talk about the importance of a rest day, especially after your weekend.
Yeah.
How often do you take a rest day? Do you plan it, or does it just sort of pop up when your old knees say no more running?
It's really tricky. You follow a training plan. You could something you downloaded online, or maybe your coach. I suppose you'd have a bit more dialogue if you had a coach. I'll just follow a plan quite religiously. But this week was a good example where after my workout on Tuesday, and I was aware I had a big week end of running coming up, that I just decided to give myself a day off. And I also didn't do the strength and condition on the Sunday after the marathon because I was just too tired. And you could have kind of suffered through it, but then kind of mentally too, you need to rest. So it was just a great excuse. I didn't feel guilty. I'm not doing it. You make the decision and then you move on. Don't beat yourself up. I think a lot of plans, and they know you're going to get ill. You're going to get an injury probably. You're going to pick up an illness, a cold, and you are going to miss something. That's why they last for months and months and months, most training plans. So if you're just not feeling up to it, and it's a genuine fatigue, then don't stress out. Just take a day off and recharge.
And there's a difference, isn't there, between an active rest day and a rest day? Because I think a lot of people fool themselves by having active rest days, which is easy run, recovery run, a bit of cross training. Whereas an actual rest day is no sweating.
Putting your jeans on.
That's my rule of thumb. Yeah, jeans on, no sweating. And if anybody's in doubt about the importance of a rest day, one, you're right. The injury prevention is huge, is having scheduled rest days. Yeah. And also non-scheduled rest days. They are the gold star of a training plan. It's when you wake up and you go, do you know what? I'm too tired. And often it's when you really lack motivation. For people like you and me who thrive off training, and the training is the biggest, that's what we plan the rest of the day around, is the training.
Pretty much.
And then the snack afterwards. If we're not motivated to train, if we're like, that is the absolute number one unscheduled rest day. Without a rest day. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit about the science very loosely of a rest day. But when you take a rest day, it gives your body obviously a chance to recover. So it gives your body to replenish those muscle glycogen stores, which is the stored sort of energy that you use for running. So you're giving yourself more energy. It gives your nervous system time to recover that stress that you create in training to reduce. Also gives your time a brain, a mental effect, doesn't it? To just reflect or just chill out and get a bit of perspective about training. And most importantly, up there is the muscle repair. Yeah. So as you found when you did that big session and then the next day, your muscles were damaged. Yeah. You have the tiny microfiber, tiny little micro tears in your muscle when you train. And it's the healing that makes them stronger. So it's a rest plus stress equal growth. So that is like the ultimate reason, isn't it?
You make a great point with the injury. You could beat yourself up, say, I'm going to miss a day, and it feels like it's kind of destroyed your week. But on the flip side of that, if you just go out for that run without the appropriate rest, and then that leads to maybe a stress fracture or something like that, you could miss 2-3 weeks of running. Yeah, just think about it like long term. I'd rather miss a day or two than 2 or 3 weeks.
And it's also taking into effect other stresses in your life. I get this a lot from clients, is that sometimes running isn't the biggest stress. Work, family, other commitments, especially at the moment, those stresses all add up. And it might be that your response to training isn't the same because of those stresses. So you do need some more rest day. And actually by training, you're going to stress your body more than you think you are. So all in all, unless you're a lazy toe rag and haven't run for 3 weeks because you've been binge watching Netflix and eating donuts, having a rest day is the gold star of any training plan. So we thought this week, as we were just talking about rest days, we would do a simple competition, Eddie style, no technology needed. We're going to put a post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any other social media things you've created, Gary?
Not yet, no. That's enough for now.
What we'd like you to, a top tip on how you recover on your rest day. Gary and I, we put our jeans on. That's what we do. No sweat, jeans on. Do you sort of like brush your hair a bit, Gary? Do you?
Yeah. I spend a lot of time with my hair. Can't you see? It's my main priority.
We'll put that on. Give us your top tips for how you recover or what you do on your rest day to make sure that it's a proper rest. So that the next day
would be great too.
Back.
It's always nice to see a picture if that's possible.
He's always trying to make it. He's always trying to one up me on these competitions.
Our Twitter address is, I'll put it in the show notes, but it is run_to_the hills. I'll pop it on. I'll pop all the Instagram, the Facebook, and the Twitter in the show notes. As we record this show on the 6th of April, that's when we'll announce
the big winner.
Yeah. What have we got this week? We're all a bit muddled up now.
Shall we talk about who we're interviewing on Friday, Gary?
Ooh.
Do you think we're allowed to mention it? I think it's top secret. Should we just give a few hints? She's very tall.
And very fast, my goodness me.
And she can jump.
Yeah. She's not scared of water.
She's not scared of water. Yeah. And she also has a super fast boyfriend. Anyway, we've got a super interview coming up this Friday. We look forward to sharing that with you soon. What's your running plans, Gary? 400s tonight?
Yeah, 400s. You know, I might have got that wrong. It might be kilometres. 400s or kilometres. I'll have to double check. Then we've got a threshold run and like a traily fartlek. So that should be quite fun. And yourself?
Well, I think this might be one of my last weeks on skis. Still got lots of snow, but I think it's going to be raining this weekend and that will wash away a lot of the skis. So I'm going to make the most of it. Thursday and Friday are going to be big ski days. One's got to be back up at that heart rate, oh Lord above. And one I'm allowed to chat and take tea.
Cool.
So I think I'll do the harder one first and then the social one next.
Yeah, get it done. That's good.
Get it done. And then we've got the French Ski Championships here this weekend.
Ooh.
So they haven't asked me to compete, which I find is strange. But we're going to take the kids to go and watch that, which will be super cool. Climb up the piste and go and bring some cowbells.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. Allez, 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 allez.
Yeah.
So that would be, I'll fit in some running around that. And then next week, I think it's time to start talking about skiing, and it'll be time to
I like the ski
trail.
chat.
You never know. It might still be all right up high. It's just the snow up high means a 20-minute drive. And when you're like us and every minute counts, I'm like, how can I fit in like a 3-hour ski and the drive there and the drive back and all the admin it takes? So in some ways, life kind of like the seasonal cycle will dictate. Well, good luck. Good luck with your sessions.
Thank you. And you. That was episode 30. We hope you enjoyed it. I'm Gary Thwaites.
I'm Eddie Sutton, and let's run to the
hills.
hills.
Run to the hills.